The night was cold, darker than usual, and the city's lights blinked like distant stars behind thick walls and wire fences. In a dirty alley far from the main roads, two alien girls sat close together, trembling. They had no shoes, no clothes. Except torn rags, and their thin bodies were covered in bruises and dust. The older one, barely 16 by human count, had silver-gray skin and glowing violet eyes. Her arms were wrapped around the younger girl, who coughed weakly in her sleep. The younger one's legs were cut, and her bones pressed through her skin like broken branches. Their names had been taken long ago now. They only had number slave tags branded in burning ink on the back of their necks. But they had escaped, and for the past 3 days, they had eaten nothing but rotten food from garbage bins. The older girl kept her eyes on the sky, watching for the patrol drones that hummed through the dark. If they were caught, they'd be sent back. Or worse, sold again. Her hand gently touched the bruises on her sister's face, and anger burned quietly inside her chest. A sound broke the silence. Footsteps, slow and steady, coming from the street. She tensed and pulled her sister deeper into the shadows. A human was walking past. Dressed in a thick coat and boots, hands in his pockets, he looked normal older, maybe in his 40s, with rough features and tired eyes, but then he paused and slowly turned toward the alley. His eyes met hers. The girl froze, heart pounding, ready to run, but her legs were too weak, and her sister couldn't move. She pushed the smaller girl behind. Her teeth clenched. Ready to fight with what little strength she had, the man didn't reach for a weapon. He didn't shout or call for help. Instead, he bent down slowly and said in a calm voice, "I saw you too yesterday." She blinked, confused. He continued, "You were near the food market, stealing from the back door." She didn't reply, didn't trust him. He didn't seem angry, just sad. Then he did something strange. He took off his coat and placed it on the ground, sliding it slowly toward them. "You'll freeze out here," he said. "It's below 0 tonight." She stared at the coat like it was a trap. No one ever gave something for free, especially not to slaves. The man didn't move closer. He simply stood up again, hands still visible, and said, "I'm not here to hurt you." She narrowed her eyes. "Why would you care?" His answer was quiet, "Because no one else will." The younger girl coughed again, louder this time, and the man looked at her with concern. "Is she sick?" he asked, taking a small step forward. "Don't come closer," the older one snapped, her voice shaking but sharp. The man stopped, nodded, and knelt instead. He reached into his bag and pulled out a water bottle and a protein bar. "I'll leave these here, and I'll walk away," he said. "You can decide." He placed the food and water gently next to the coat, then stood and began walking away. The older girl stared after him, confused, suspicious, but curious. She looked at her sister, whose lips were dry and cracked, her breathing slow. She made a choice. She grabbed the food and water, quickly feeding her sister first. Then she wrapped the human's coat around both of them. It smelled like old leather and smoke, but it was warm. They didn't sleep, just sat there, silent. Holding each other under the coat, her mind spun with questions. Why had he helped them? What did he want? Morning came with a bitter wind and dull gray light, and then footsteps again. It was him, the human, back with a hovercart. "I have space at my place," he said, not coming too close. "Warmth, food, safety." She looked up sharply. "Why?" His answer came slowly. "Because someone once helped me when I had nothing. I owed the universe something back." Her lips parted, unsure if she should trust that voice. Trust brought pain, always, but the cold was killing them, and her. Sister couldn't take much more. The man looked at them gently and said, "Both of you, come home." The older girl didn't move, not yet, but her heart, her broken, guarded heart, hesitated for the first time, and that hesitation might just save their lives. The human waited in silence, his breath fogging in the cold morning air. The older alien girl stared at him, still wrapped in his coat, her sister asleep in her arms. She didn't trust him, not yet, but her sister needed help. Real help. Not more hiding. Not more trash food and freezing nights. Finally, she stood up on shaking legs, still holding her sister close. Her voice was low, guarded. "You try anything, and I'll kill you." The man nodded once. Fair enough. He lowered the hovercart, helping her lift the younger girl inside without touching either of them. Then he turned around and walked ahead, giving them space. No questions, no rush. Just quiet footsteps on frosted metal ground. The cart hummed softly as it floated behind him. Carrying both sisters, they passed empty buildings, broken signs, flickering street lamps. The city was cruel, silent, and full of hungry eyes, but no one dared approach the man, not with how he moved. They reached an old building near the city edge. It looked like a repair shop, rusted panels. One working camera above the door. He tapped a code on the side wall, and the door slid open with a tired hiss. Warmth hit her face like a wave of real heat, not from garbage fires or leaking vents. Inside was clean, simple, and quiet. The lights were soft. The air smelled like metal and spice. There was a couch, a kitchen corner, even a fireplace that glowed with artificial flame. He pointed to the couch. "You can lay her there." The girl did, slowly, still watching him as he moved. He brought a blanket, draped it over the younger one, then stepped back. "Kitchens." "Over there," he said. "Food, clean water, med kit if she needs it." She hesitated, then walked over and opened a cabinet. No lock, no poison, just stacked cans, fresh fruit, and sealed water packs. Her hands shook as she grabbed two. She fed her sister slowly, tears slipping from her eyes as the child drank without gagging. It was the first real food in weeks. The man sat across the room, giving them space. He didn't speak, didn't watch too hard, just waited patiently, like someone used to being alone. After a while, he stood, went to another room, and came back with clothes, soft, warm, clean, folded neatly. "These might fit," he said, placing them on the edge of the couch. "You can wash up first." "Where?" she asked, voice dry. He pointed down the hall, second door on the left. No lock, but no cameras either. She carried her sister in her arms, stepping into the bathroom like she was stepping into another world. It was clean, white tiles, hot running water, fresh towels, soap that smelled like flowers. She undressed them both slowly, shaking with nerves. As the warm water poured over their skin, the dirt ran off in streams brown. Black, old blood ash, fear. Her sister smiled faintly as the water touched her face. They washed in silence, the older girl's heart pounding the whole time. Not from fear, no, but from disbelief. No chains, no collars, no orders, just warmth, and water, and silence. She dressed her sister in the smallest clothes, then put on a soft shirt and pants herself. The fabric felt strange, soft against skin that had only known rags. She looked in the mirror and barely recognized them. Her sister's cheeks had color. Her own eyes didn't look hollow anymore. She almost cried again when they returned to the room. The man had made soup. It smelled rich, like herbs and meat. He poured 2 bowls and placed them on the table without saying a word, then stepped back and picked up a book, leaving them to eat. They ate slowly, carefully, still half expecting a trick, but no trick came. After dinner, her sister fell asleep. On the couch, wrapped in warmth, the older girl sat across from the human and finally asked, "What do you want in return?" He looked up, eyes serious. "Nothing," he said. "That's not how this works." She whispered, "It should be," he replied, then added softly, "I help because I couldn't help someone else." A long time ago, she stared at him, trying to read behind the quiet pain in his voice. He didn't look like a liar. He looked like someone broken in a way she understood. She sat back, arms crossed, but her guard lowered just a little. For the first time in her life, she wasn't planning how to run. She was wondering what tomorrow might look like. The fire cracked gently. The wind howled outside. But inside, they were safe, for now. The night was quiet inside the old repair shop. The younger alien girl slept deeply under the warm blanket. Breathing steady for the first time in days, the older sister sat awake on the floor. Back pressed to the wall, her arms wrapped around her knees. She had clean clothes now. Her stomach was full and her sister was safe. But her mind wouldn't rest. It whispered warnings. Don't trust him. It's a trick. There's always a price. She looked at the human. Sleeping in a chair across the room, his head was tilted to the side, mouth slightly open. A blanket over his shoulders. He looked tired, older, but calm in the dim light. She saw something glinting near the hallway, on a small shelf by the door. A silver key. Her heart pounded. A way out. Maybe, if he locked doors. If this was a trap, that key might be the only way to escape. She stood slowly, quietly, feet padding across the soft floor. She reached out, fingers shaking, and touched the key. No alarm, no camera flash, no sound. She slid it into her pocket, then turned to look at the human again. Still asleep, still unmoving, she walked back, sat down beside her sister, and kept her eyes open until the morning light crept in. The next day, the human cooked again eggs, bread, and something that smelled sweet. Eat, he said simply. You need strength. She helped her sister sit at the table. They ate in silence, both watching him carefully. He ate his own plate without speaking, letting them finish at their own pace. Afterward, he stood and said, "Bathroom's free if you want to clean up more. I also left something for you." She followed his glance and saw a small cloth bag on the couch. Inside were 2 toothbrushes, a small hairbrush, lotion, and a mirror. Things she hadn't used in years. She hesitated, then picked up the mirror. Her reflection startled her. Her hair was tangled but clean. Her eyes clearer, her face less sunken. Her sister smiled shyly behind her. Looking more alive than she had in forever, the older girl sighed. "This doesn't feel real, I know." The man said softly from behind her. "It'll take time." She turned, staring at him hard. "Why are you really doing this?" "I told you," he said. "I owe someone you couldn't save." She asked quietly. His eyes darkened, and he nodded. "My daughter," he said. "She vanished during a raid. Years ago I couldn't find her, couldn't stop them." Her throat tightened. She didn't know how to respond, but for the first time, she didn't feel like a prisoner here. She felt like someone who had something in common with him. Pain, later that afternoon. He showed them the shower unit again. "Use it whenever you want," he said. "Hot water's always available." The older girl carried her sister into the bathroom again. This time, she helped her properly wash her hair, clean her small body. The water was warm and steady, gentle on their skin as they dried off. She looked in the mirror again. She wasn't beautiful, not in the way the elite wanted. But she didn't look broken anymore. She gently brushed her sister's hair, tied it with a ribbon from the cloth bag. They smiled at each other, soft and shy. For the first time in years, they looked like children. Not tools, not property. That night, while the younger one slept peacefully, the older girl sat at the table, watching the fire. The human sat nearby, fixing an old wrist communicator. Neither spoke for a long time. Then she asked, "What if someone comes looking for us?" "I have security," he said. "No one will find you here unless I let them. And what happens if you change your mind?" She asked, eyes sharp. He looked up calm. "Then I hope you take the key and run." She froze. He knew. "You saw it?" She asked. He nodded. "I left it there on purpose, to see if you still had fight in you." Her voice was quiet. "Why?" "Because if you didn't," he said, "you wouldn't survive this world." Even with help, she stared at him, heart confused. Was this real kindness, or just another kind of game? Then he said something that made her chest ache. "I don't want anything from you," he said. "Just to know you're safe." The fire crackled, soft and warm. Outside, the cold city kept moving, cruel and blind. But in this room, for the first time in her life, she felt something dangerous, something she didn't know if she could believe in yet. Hope asterisk. The morning came gently, soft golden light touching the windows. For the first time in weeks, the 2 alien girls had slept through the night without fear. The younger one curled up under a thick blanket, dreaming peacefully. The older sister sat near the fireplace, legs tucked under her, watching the flames flicker. The human man was in the kitchen. Quietly making breakfast, he moved with the calm rhythm of someone used to being alone. But today he wasn't alone. He had made coffee for himself, and 2 cups of warm tea for them. Toast popped up from a battered old toaster, steam rising from a pan of eggs and beans. "You like this place?" he asked without turning. The older girl nodded slowly. "It doesn't smell like fear." He paused, then smiled. "That's a good start." She didn't smile back, but her eyes softened. She was still cautious, still suspicious, but something inside her had shifted. This place, this man, none of it felt like the traps she knew. Then came the knock. 3 sharp raps on the metal door. The human froze. The sound echoed through the quiet room like a gunshot. The older girl stood up fast, heart racing. The younger one stirred in her sleep, unaware. The man moved to the control panel by the door. He checked the screen and muttered, "Not good." She stepped beside him, eyes scanning the tiny monitor. 2 armored men stood outside, not police, but worse, private security. The kind hired by collectors and slave lords. Her blood ran cold. "They found us," she whispered. The human's jaw tightened, but his voice stayed calm. "Stay here. Don't speak. Don't show your face." He walked to the door and pressed a button. A voice crackled through the speaker. "This unit is being inspected for illegal property. Step outside." The man opened the door just a crack, enough to show his face. "What's this about?" he asked flatly. One of the guards held up a tablet. "We have reports of escaped assets matching to juvenile profiles. Do I look like someone who keeps kids locked up?" The man said, voice steady. "Standard scan," the guard replied. Lifting a small drone the size of a bird, "It'll fly through and confirm." "No need," the man said, suddenly smiling. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a cardan. Old Federation clearance badge, outdated but still respected in certain corners of the galaxy. The guards paused, scanning the badge. The senior one frowned. "You're retired, yes," the man replied. "But I still know people who'd love to hear about unlawful searches. You want me to call them now?" There was a long silence, then the drone retracted, and the guard grunted. "We'll check the next block," he said, turning away. The door closed with a hiss, locking tight. The girl exhaled only when the sound of footsteps faded. She turned to the man, eyes wide. "That was real?" He nodded. "It bought us time, but they'll come back." She said they might, he answered. "Or they'll send someone worse." She backed away, chest tight. Panic rising again. "I should have never stayed," she whispered. "They'll track us. Take her. Take me." He stepped closer, gently but firmly. "They won't touch you while I'm breathing." The words struck deep, not because they were loud, but because they were steady. She sat down hard, hands in her lap, staring at the fire. The warmth felt like it might vanish any moment. The younger girl finally woke up, rubbing her eyes. "Why are you scared?" she asked softly, crawling into her sister's lap. The older one kissed her forehead. "I'm not scared," then added in her mind, "I'm just not ready to lose this." Later that evening, the man showed her a locked cabinet in the wall. Inside were weapons, old tech, and dusty files. "I used to hunt people like them," he said. "Not for money, for justice." She stared at the rifles, the stun batons, the marked maps. "You were one of those bounty men." "I was," he said, "until they took my daughter." Her eyes lowered. She understood now. This wasn't just guilt. This was redemption. "You're helping us because you couldn't help her," she said quietly. He nodded. "Maybe, maybe not. But if I don't help someone, I'll never sleep again." They sat there for a while, surrounded by old scars and fading memories. 2 strangers, broken in different ways, but maybe healing in the same place. The next morning was silent, too silent. The older alien girl woke before her sister. The sunlight barely touched the windows, and the human was nowhere in sight. She stood up carefully, heart alert. The fire had burned low in the fireplace, and the air felt colder. She walked to the hallway and called out softly, "Are you here?" No answer. Her eyes narrowed. She remembered the locked cabinet, the weapons, the map. The hidden pain in the man's voice. She had trusted him just a little, but not enough to ignore her instincts. She moved quickly and quietly through the house. The place felt different this morning. Not dangerous, just secretive. She reached a hallway she hadn't entered before. There was a locked door at the end, its handle dusted but used recently, to her surprise. The key from the front shelf worked. The door opened with a soft click. Inside, the air smelled old and dry. It was a storage room, or maybe a vault. Cold metal shelves lined with dusty crates. Data drives and paper files. In the middle of the room was a large desk. On the wall hung a faded photo, a young human girl, smiling, standing next to the man when he was younger. They looked happy, peaceful, like a father and daughter before. The world fell apart. She stepped closer and saw more maps marked with red dots. Old bounty posters, missing persons reports. There were pictures of traffickers, slavers, corrupt guards, and in the center, a name burned into a data screen in red letters. Sarek's Holdings. Her heart dropped. That was the same network her former master had worked for, the one who had bought her and her sister at auction. She kept digging. She found a file with her sister's face on it, tagged, scanned, cataloged. They had been on the system, tracked like cargo. The door creaked behind her, and she turned fast, heart in her throat. It was him. The human stood there, not angry, not surprised. He just looked tired. "You found it," he said quietly. She held up the file. "Why do you have this?" "Been hunting them," he said, "for years after they took my daughter. I started pulling their network apart, one name at a time." Her voice cracked. "Did you find her?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked over and sat down heavily in the chair by the desk. "She was 12, he said. Bright, curious, always asking questions. One day I came back from a job and she was gone. They left no message, no body, no trace, just a broken lock and an empty room." The girl's throat tightened. She'd seen children like that, in cages, in chains. Some didn't last a week. "I couldn't protect her," he said, voice low. "So now I protect anyone I can. I figured if I can't save her, maybe I can save someone else's child." She looked down at the folder in her hands, her own past, reduced to a file. But this man, he had tried to fight back. He had lost more than she ever knew. She sat on the edge of the table, the silence between them thick with memory. Then she asked, "Do you think she's still alive?" He looked up, eyes wet but focused. "I don't know," he said, "but if she is, I'll find her. And if not, I'll make sure no one else suffers the way she did." She believed him. Not because he spoke with passion, but because he spoke with pain. He pulled out a small device, a scanner. "I can remove your tags," he said, "if you let me." Her breath caught. The tags in their necks had been there so long, she forgot what it was like to be free, truly free. She nodded slowly. He worked carefully, hand steady. The device buzzed against her skin, burning slightly as it erased the digital signature. The pain was sharp, but so was the relief. Then he did the same for her sister, who flinched but didn't cry. After it was done, he looked at them and said, "You're off their grid now. They won't be able to trace you through the system again." She stared at him, stunned. "No one's ever done that for us." He smiled sadly. "Then it's about time someone did." That night, she sat on the porch of the safe house. Looking at the stars, the cold wind touched her skin, but she didn't shiver. She heard the door creak open behind her, and her sister came out, wrapping herself. "In a blanket? Do you think we'll stay here forever?" the little one asked. The older girl didn't answer right away. She looked at the sky and whispered, "I don't know, but I want to." It was just after midnight when the silence shattered. A loud crack shook the walls, followed by a second, closer, sharper. The older alien girl jumped from her sleep, heart racing. Her sister cried out from the couch, clutching her blanket in fear. The human was already on his feet. He didn't ask questions. He grabbed the emergency case from under the floorboard and threw it open. Inside were weapons, a portable shield emitter, and a breathing mask. His hands moved fast, practiced, deadly. "Stay down, both of you," he said calmly. "We're under attack." The older girl pulled her sister behind the couch and crouched, trembling. "Who is it?" She whispered. They found us, he said, and they didn't come to talk outside. Shadows moved across the windows. A spotlight swept across the building, followed by metallic footsteps. 4, maybe 5 attackers, then a deep, raspy voice echoed from a speaker outside. Return our property. We won't burn the building down. The girl's blood turned to ice. It was him, the collector. The one who had bought them, branded them, used them. She'd dreamed of this voice in her nightmares, and now it was real again. The human placed a small device in the middle of the room. A dome of blue light expanded, humming softly. It was a shield. He crouched beside the girls and looked into her eyes. You can run now, he said, or you can fight. Her hands were shaking, but she met his gaze. What will you do? I'll fight, he replied. Always. She looked at her sister, at the fear in those small eyes. And then she stood, jaw tight. Then I'll fight too, she said. The human smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was sharp, proud. Ready for war? The first shot hit the shield like thunder. The building shook. Sparks flew across the floor. The man fired back through a side window, hitting one of the attackers square in the chest. A scream followed, metallic and high-pitched. The older girl grabbed one of the small stun guns from the weapons box. Her hands fumbled, but she'd seen it used before. She remembered enough. She set it to pulse mode and took position near the back entrance. The collector's voice came again, cruel and mocking. You think that human can protect you forever? You were born to serve. Come out now, and I'll be kind. Her lip curled. She had been silent, scared, helpless for so long. But not tonight, she shouted back. We're not your property. The next wave came harder. Smoke grenades were thrown through a side window. The human rolled out of cover and launched a small drone into the air. It flashed red and fired stun pulses at anything moving outside the shield. An enemy broke through. The window, armored and fast. The girl raised her weapon and fired one. 2-3 times. The third hit sent the attacker into the wall. Twitching, her heart pounded, but she didn't freeze. She felt strong. Suddenly, her sister screamed her. Body arching in pain, the human spun around and shouted, What is it? The older girl ran to her, and then she saw it. Small glowing light at the base of her sister's neck. The tracker, it's still in her. She gasped. They never removed hers fully. The human cursed under his breath and grabbed a scanner. Hold her still, it's deep. But I can get it out, the younger one cried. Tears running down her cheeks. I don't want to go back, she whispered. Please don't let them take me. We won't. The man said firmly, I promise. With shaking hands and fast tools, he worked. Sparks flew as the device buzzed and cut around the tracker. The girl held her sister tightly, whispering calm words. And finally, he pulled it free. The glowing chip flickered in his hand, then dimmed. He crushed it under his boot outside. The attackers began retreating. Their signal was gone. The tracker had been their only link. The human let out a breath, wiping blood and sweat from his brow. It's over, he said. For now, the fire was out. The walls were cracked, and the shield was drained, but they were still alive. The girls sat on the floor, wrapped in blankets, too tired to cry, too stunned to speak. The man leaned against the wall, gun still in hand. He looked at them with something between pride and sorrow. We can't stay, he said. They'll send more. The older girl nodded. She didn't want to run again, but now she understood. This wasn't about just surviving anymore. This was about freedom. The human stood up, stretched, and walked toward the hidden panel in the wall. He pressed a code, and a map lit up on the screen. Pack light, he said. We're going somewhere safe. The younger girl blinked through. Tears where? He smiled faintly. A place no one remembers, he said. But everyone deserves. A place called New Solace. The ship broke through the clouds with a soft hum. It was old, patched together with care and years of use, but it flew steady, cutting through the stars like it still had purpose. Inside, the 2 alien girls sat, buckled in, eyes wide, watching. The stars blur past. It was the first time they had ever left the city. The planet, the chains, the human sat in the pilot seat, hands on the controls. He didn't speak much, but his eyes stayed calm, focused. He was taking them far away far. From slavers, from fear, from the past. The older girl looked at her sister, who had fallen asleep with her head on her shoulder. Her face looked peaceful again, finally free from pain. She whispered to herself, "We're really gone." Then she looked toward the man. "Where is this place? New Solace." He gave a soft smile, not looking back. Old colony world, forgotten. After the war, no military, no satellites, no registry, safe? She asked. He nodded, safe enough to start again. They landed 3 hours later on a world covered in soft green forests and blue skies. The air smelled like wildflowers and earth. The sun was warm, the wind was gentle, the house was all ready. They're a simple one-story cabin built by his own hands over the years. Stone walls, solar panels on the roof, a small garden in the back. There was a stream nearby. And no city in sight. "This is home now," he said, "if you want it." The younger girl jumped from the ship and spun in the grass. Laughing, her feet were bare, her arms wide. She was finally a child again. The older girl stepped down more slowly, eyes scanning the horizon. No fences, no towers, no patrols, just open sky and endless trees. She turned to him, uncertain. "What do we do now?" He looked at her gently. "Live," he said. "Start over. You're not numbers anymore. You can choose who you want to be." That night they sat around a small fire outside the cabin. The stars above looked closer here, brighter. Almost listening, the younger girl had a flower in her hair and held a wooden carving the man had given her, a tiny animal with wide eyes. The older one sat with a notebook, blank pages in front of her. He handed her a pencil. "You don't have to use your old name," he said softly. "You get to pick one now." She looked down at the page. Her hands trembled, then slowly, carefully. She wrote a single word. "Lene," he smiled. "Lena," he said, testing it on his tongue. "It suits you." She looked up, her eyes wet. "I want her to have one too," she said, glancing at her sister. "Ask her," the man said. "She gets to choose to." The younger one tilted her head, thinking, then she grinned and said, "Mira, Lena, and Mira." The man repeated, "Welcome home." Weeks passed, and life began to grow. They planted vegetables in the garden, learned how to fish. In the stream, Mira drew pictures every day, hanging them on the walls. Lena helped build shelves, fix tools, even started reading old books the man had saved sometimes. She had nightmares. Dark memories still chased her in sleep, but the human was always there, sitting nearby, never letting her face the dark alone. He never asked for anything, never expected them to repay him, just lived with them, day by day, rebuilding something broken one morning. A bird landed on the windowsill, a strange species, colorful and curious. Mira laughed and held out her hand. The bird hopped into her palm without fear. Lena watched from the doorway. Heart full and silent, the world felt like it had changed around her, not because it had become perfect, but because now she had the freedom to breathe. She looked at the man, who was trimming vines from the garden wall. He glanced at her and smiled. No words were needed. They had been through pain, fire, and fear, but they had come out together, not as slaves, not as strangers, but as something new, a family. And as the sun rose over New Solace, Lena whispered one final word to herself, a word she hadn't dared speak in years: home.